beautiful day you've given us to celebrate the life of a very special guy. Please bless all those who made this celebration possible, the planners, workers, and the generosity of the school staff. And bless all of the family and friends who are here to support the family and reflect on a life well lived. Lord, we pray that you welcome Mike into your kingdom, who as a child was claimed for you in baptism, who received you in Holy Communion, who lived an exemplary life of joy, good nature, and positivity that radiated your love to the world through his good deeds and easy smile, who was blessed and absolved of sin in his final days by your priestly servant. May his questions be answered and his soul be at peace in your eternal paradise. God, please wrap your loving grace around his wife, his children, mom, dad, my other siblings, and all who love and miss him. May your angels comfort and guide us. Please carry us through the tough moments and see us through to the precious moments yet to come. May we all leave our burdens of sadness and despair at your feet and cherish the love and fond memories living on in our hearts. Bless little Emmy and dear Liam with your own strength and fortitude. May they feel in their hearts how much you love them, and let Mike know that his village will look after them always. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Father, Son, Holy Spirit.
Mike was the best. When Mike was born, I was 19 months old. They say that my mom had to put Mike in the closet when she was bringing in groceries because I would pinch him. He was always on my tail. We grew up playing outside, riding our Transformer three-wheelers, skateboards, bikes, playing with G.I. Joes, Ninja Turtles, and marbles. It was always me and Mike. Sometimes he was pretty annoying, but most of the time I was glad to have him around. Mike used to ask me what present he should ask for on his birthday, and I would always choose something that I wanted. And then I would ask him if I could play with it first. And he never really seemed to mind. When Mike would hang around any of my friends, they would instantly like him. Even recently, with my friends from work, I would include Mike in our Zoom meetings, comic book reading club, guys' night out. If you knew me, then you knew Mike. Mike liked to show off things that he thought were cool. His Xbox, his computer, things like that. But me, the best thing that I could show off to my friends was Mike. It was easy to see that Mike looked up to me. But the truth is that was the one that kept me on the straight and narrow because I knew that I couldn't let him down. He was the joy in my life. He was my smile. He was everything to me. I just hope that he knew it. I thought I wouldn't be able to smile again after Mike passed, but the truth is, I could look back on any memory that I have of him, and I can't not smile. You were a great man, Mike, a good husband, a great father. I'm so proud of you. I love you so much, and I miss you every day. But I know one day, when I'm called home to paradise, Mike will be there to show me around, greeting me with that big, beautiful, ready for mischief smile. Rest easy, little brother. I love you. You were the best.
Supposed to go first, but I didn't think I could. Apparently you couldn't either. You did. So I just want to share a couple notes that I had of Mike when he was an infant. I remember when I was pregnant with him, I couldn't wait for him to be born. You know what it's like, those women who have carried children before. I remember telling people, man, I can't wait till this kid comes out. And then I think it was the next day that he was born. He was 5.5 weeks premature, and called a couple of friends from the hospital and asked for prayers. It was just a couple hours later, I got a call. They said there's over 100 people praying for Michael right now. Felt a sense of peace, because I knew that's all he needed. And Steve was right. Whenever I would bring home the groceries, I'd have to put him in his infant seat in the closet and shut the door. Of course, he was just an infant. He was asleep, and I had to put him in a safe place so that Stephen wouldn't get to him while I was carrying in groceries. Also, when I would be feeding him, I would have to go upstairs and shut the bedroom door so he wouldn't know where we were, because he would come and he would throw toys at me whenever I was feeding Michael, because he was so jealous. One time, Stephen didn't like one of Michael's girlfriends, and he wouldn't have anything to do with him, wouldn't talk to him, wouldn't visit, nothing. And then one day I called him up and I let him know that Michael had just broke up with that girlfriend. What do you know? There he is. Immediately come and hang out with his brother and make up for lost time. And as you know, Stephen and Michael, they grew up to be the best of friends, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Thank you.
I'm glad Steve shared that story about the toys. I want to remind people it's okay to laugh. It's okay to still have fun at this. If you know Mike, you know he was about one thing first and foremost, and that was a good time, and he really knew how to have a good one. And so the story, the way I heard it, you heard Stephen's version of that story, but how many remember where Toys R Us used to be? Toys R Us used to be a big tradition in the Graham family. They would go down there on their birthday and they would get to pick one toy. Eventually Stephen got banned from that tradition because Michael never got to pick a toy without Stephen's influence, his heavy hand. I don't even know if he got to play with it on the first day, but what a neat tradition. Our next person, I'm going to read some of the fish bowls here as soon as I get my head around which ones are going to be ready. We thank you for filling these out today in lieu of an open mic. The family decided that it'd be a really cool thing to actually read them later on where they can appreciate them. Our next person is, wow, this guy, I know him very well as well. They started out in preschool together, kindergarten, Little League, and wow, there's not a lot of other ways you can explain Jason Solidaris unless you know Jason Solidaris. Literally, if we could harness his kind of energy, I don't think we'd have an energy shortage anymore. Thank you for coming up, Mr. Solidaris. Bringing a guest, I see. That is, I'm guessing, Mrs. Brummond. Very cool, very cool. Jason Solidaris' father was real big in football here as well, football coach. All right, Jason.
Good evening. I'll keep it short. I know Mikey since we were both knee-high to a grasshopper. When we played, went to elementary school together, played Little League together. We used to be on each other's hips, having sleepovers and stuff like that all the time. And if there's one thing about Mikey, he was goofy. He was a silly son of a bitch and super imaginative and energetic and marched off step to his own drum beat. He possessed one of the most god-awful baseball swings you ever could see. And like had no elbows, you know? But he made it work. And he showed up unembarrassed and he did his work. Mikey was my first best good friend. And if there's anything that I'll take away from my childhood memories of him and us, it's the way he confidently handled himself and how that made me feel. He showed me at a young age that it was okay to be just as goofy, and just as silly, and just as different. And that made me feel a lot less alone. He really was a wonderfully intelligent and witty and sharp as a tack kind of individual, and my life has been deeply impacted and enriched in a multitude of ways from the energy he carried into his surroundings. I pray that he rests well now and that his memory will continue to be of service for years to come.
The next lady probably doesn't need any introduction. How many of you had Mrs. Brummond as a teacher sometime in your lifetime? What a privilege that was from what I hear from Mrs. Brummond. She taught the gate kids. Those kids are usually pretty good. Grades 2, 3, and 4. Is it 3, 4th, and 5th? All the way to 5th. Her husband as well was a preschool teacher in the community, so a real National City legend. Mrs. Brummond.
Beginning with Becky in the fall of 83 and 84, those 2 years, and then through Lester in the fall of, 96 and 97, so quite a while. Once the principal asked me, do you know Alma Graham's mom? I said, yeah, and I told her I mentioned. She was surprised. I said, well, all those years at college. My husband, guys, as I mentioned, had someone in his preschool. When he was at Iowa Harbison, preschool, and I was up teaching 3rd, 4th probably, and he said, oh, you got a couple more smart ones coming up. I don't know whether that was Lester or Walter, or that was Stephen and Michael, yes, Stephen and Michael. They were the little ones. We've kept in touch through many, many years, many birthday parties and wedding or two. Kids, grandkids, we celebrated my 23rd birthday several times because I was always trying to be. And several visits to their house many, many years. And Groundhog Day, they started it. It was just a riot. We just loved made you feel that he was glad to be with you. You know, that's a nice feeling when you know somebody is happy to be with you. Michael was always respectful, happily engaged in activities. He was quiet. He was the quiet one because his older brother was talkative. And I have a granddaughter that's very talkative, and the second one she hardly talked. Complaining one of her art teachers. And our teacher says, well, when she raised her hand, I don't regularly go right to her because she never talks. I want to see what she wants to know. And her mother, my daughter, said, well, she never talks to me either. So it's just like that. You got somebody who talks a lot, but you found out by being with him that he was right with you and understood and enjoyed his activities. He was a friend to everyone. He was a student who willing to help others. Not everyone that is really smart cares to have to take time to help others. That kind of maybe not fun. I went back through our end of the year parent programs. We used to do a program for the parents every year. And some family members may recall Michael's June 91 recitings of Shel Silverstein's Captain Hook and Recipe for Hippopotamus Sandwich. Every other year we did those because I had the kids 2 years anyway. And they did it with perfect. And then these Sweetwater songs. He learned 8 Sweetwater songs on his first year, and with perfect timing because you had to have perfect timing when you didn't pass. You practiced. A side note, Becky. I skipped ahead. In June of '92, he performed How to Eat Fried Worms. That's a neat little play. And a side note, Becky chose to perform that same play way back in '86. He played 19 new songs with perfect timing the next year. Several weeks ago, Michael and his family were right around looking at homes in the Coral Cays. And so he called for a visit and came right by. And we sat out in the patio for a long while talking. And we've been planning to get together along with the cousins and families. Kids didn't want to go out on the boats right then, but to play on the beach, go kayaking, and maybe some paddleboard. We were so very glad that we had that day together. I think about that. We miss him so, as do us all. So young and too soon to go.
Thank you, Mr. Brumman. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention another teacher in Michael's life. By the way, how many were involved in Michael's education out there at some point or another? Okay, thank you for that, Joe Judge. I don't need to know what that was about. No, we are going to mention that here. Where's Mrs. Prosser out there? I saw her earlier. Where are you at? Mrs. Prosser, would you stand up for a moment? How many have ever had Mrs. Prosser at National City? Wow. Okay, Ms. Brumman, don't be jealous. Don't be jealous. Okay, thank you, Mrs. Prosser. She came into my classroom last week with a bunch of photos that I can't show here exactly, but Mrs. Prosser informed me when she found out that Alyssa and Michael were getting married, that she had an extra condominium in Belize, was it? And why not go on a honeymoon with her? Now, I don't know how sexy of a honeymoon you all had, but a honeymoon with Mrs. Prosser? Wow. The stories, I can't imagine. Before I call up the next person here, I'm sure you all know who Herbie is. I'm just going to let her chill for a second, like a nice Chianti. I'm going to read some of the fish bowls because I promised I would. Even though we only met for a moment, it was special for both of us speaking about our kids. You're both very happy and it felt solid. If you love both if you love you both like you have for each other. I should have brought the glasses. I'm so grateful I got to meet you, Michael. You will be in my heart always. Carla Montiel, Joy's sister-in-law. Another good one right here. This one, I'm going to save that one, Lester. Bowling party. Who was involved in the bowling parties? Bowling parties? Okay, all right. Part of the bowling crew, that would be Jasso, Montiel, Corral, Rodriguez, and Sal. So much fun at the bowling parties. That's a good one. He had the best smile and was always happy. How many would remember that about Mike? The best smile. always happy. And this young lady on my side right here, she goes by Herbie to all those who know her. She was my first ASB dean when I came to Sweetwater, and she had an interesting thing that she said. It kind of bugged me at first, but she would always be like, you know how it is when how many have come from blended families? There was someone else in that seat before you or whatnot, and Herbie used to say all the time, that's not the way Mrs. Prawl did it. We have traditions here at Sweetwater High School. We have traditions. And so it was like a broken record. That's not the way Mrs. Prawl did it. And I didn't know this at the time, but there was this little freshman that followed her around, a sophomore, I believe, and he started miming that too. And he was like, that's not the way Miss Prawl did it. That's not the way Miss Prawl did it. And I thought, what's with you two? Do you know each other? Well, it turned out they were cousins. Like a lot of people in National City, Herbie and Michael are cousins, is that correct? And so come on up here, Herbie. When Michael eventually ran for president, I literally put my fingers on the scales of justice, and I was like, I hope this kid doesn't win. I can't hear this another year, because Herbie gave me an earful. And when he won, to his credit, that kid and I had a meeting, and I said, one thing, Michael, tradition's awesome. You come from a school so full of tradition, but life doesn't have to be or. It can be and. We can have tradition and something new. And you know what? No one dug in harder. No one put their nose to the work wheel, whatever they call that, like Michael Graham. He made so many things happen at this school. It just couldn't have happened with 30 kids in an ASB and a supportive administration as much as they did. Michael Graham really made a revolutionary change by keeping Sweetwater's traditions and adding some of his own spirit and personality. So Herbie, come and tell us a little bit more about your life and your influence with Michael.
The only other time I've ever been in this gym was with Michael. The gym was built after we graduated from Sweetwater. At the time, Michael was working part-time as a tech support for Sweetwater while attending San Diego State. He was giving me a tour of the gym, and I wasn't sure about the gym space, but Michael was excited about it, so I became excited about it as he was showing me around. Michael was a positive guy. Michael was everything. He was smart, he was funny, he was just a real stand-up guy. Michael was a proud red devil. The Sioux High spirit was in his blood. I think he embodies the alma mater that we see above us. At Sweetwater, Michael did well in academics, was well liked by peers and teachers. He was an athlete in football and track, and was in ASB as a commissioner of finance and eventually ASB president. Michael and I often talked about how important it was to be ASB trained. A part of being ASB trained meant to serve, to support the greater good of the community and or whatever task it may be. Michael was always willing to help others. In high school, there would be various school events, and Michael was always around, and he would help out even if he wasn't affiliated with the group. Michael was willing to serve his community and with a lot of energy. You'd always see him bouncing around, and then like literally he'd be on the wall, and that's why we called him Spider-Man. He was a fun guy. As a commissioner of finance, his job was to account for all the money coming in and out of ASB daily. There was never any worry about him not doing the job well. Like I said earlier, he was a smart guy. He was also thorough in his work. If there was a discrepancy in numbers, he would take it as a personal mission to figure it out. He enjoyed a good puzzle. He was trustworthy. You could trust that he would get the task done and done well. When Michael was ASB president, that is when he became, they started making morning announcements on video like we saw. He had so much fun with those productions of the videos. It was an opportunity to have fun with his friends and make something creative. He was a clever guy. I also think it was an opportunity just to flash a smile. He really liked doing that. Michael had a bright smile, much like the moon. The week of his death, there was a celestial event. The harvest moon coincided with the supermoon
blood moon and a partial lunar eclipse. While the harvest moon happens each year close to the start of the fall, and supermoons happen 3 to 4 times a year, all 3 events taking place at the same time is quite rare. Michael was rare. His death is only a partial eclipse of his light. His bright light lives on all of us, and we can see it in the faces of his children. We love you, Michael.
Herbie Zula went to the class of 1999. And don't worry, Herbie, they've still got a lot of the traditions here. He passed on to me and Michael, Tony Uribe, Roxana Ramirez, Juan Ulloa. Quite a few people carried that torch over the year. A couple other people to mention right now. How many of you ever were in ASB at one given time? ASB seemed to kind of have a fast track. If you were in the finance commissionership, you had a special wings on your back, almost a flight of someone very, very important. Mrs. Gonzalez, Mrs. G. Could you stand for a second, Mrs. G? You're looking at probably National City's most influential mom in the zip code of 91950. That woman right there raised so many of your kids, got them out of trouble, gave them advice. And I know she started out with Michael as a quiet little freshman, and until the point where he became the president of the ASB was. So thank you, Mrs. Gonzalez, from the bottom of all of our hearts. I know Ray is looking down today as well, and maybe Ray's having a good time up there with him, picking up chairs and judging Sal. A couple more. This is supposedly my time to talk, but I'm just going to read a few more of these fish bowls. Michael was the first student to greet me at Sioux High when I first started my career as an educator in 2002. The irony is he was not even a student any longer. He hung around a while, that's for sure. As he had already graduated, he was always represented the love of Sioux High and National City to me, and love and be in peace, Michael. And this guy now has a doctor in front of his name, Dr. Jason Joseph. We love that guy. There he is, Jason Joseph. Mike understood and accepted and loved me for my natural quirks. On a drive one day, he expressed that he liked that he and I shared quiet, comfortable silences. No pressure to socialize. He made me feel normal as an autistic person. Wow. Thank you, Lester. My favorite memory of Mike is all the gossip we shared at the PTA meetings every morning. Wow, really? Nice. Who are my PTA people here? Okay, I'm interested. You've got me a gossip. Also, when we played pickleball together, and then the next day he showed up without paddles. Okay, all right. But did he know how to dig? That's the question. Could he dig? I'm seeing a yes over there. He was such a good guy. Leilani, Amu, and family. Thanks for that one. I'm gonna do one more here. Then Angie Garcia, you want to come up, be on deck? I think I can do this one right here. Siempre sonríe, fue muy alegre y respetuoso, amable y me agradaba cuando hablamos en español. No me di cuenta. Él me dijo, deseaba seguir aprendiendo más español, amaba mucho y su esposa y hijos tan bonitos, toda la familia Castro, Martínez, Jessica y Elena. Gracias por esas palabras. Una más. I was a school psychologist at Michael's school. What we learned about him, I later wrote volumes. I just made that part up. He was great at helping me with other students. He was such a loving person and very intelligent. Tanya, thank you for that one. The next person I hadn't seen in about 20 years, Angie Garcia. Cheerleader, I believe. She had that cheerleader energy, just looking her up here today. Still working with kids today in the court system, I believe. Got her SDSU BA at San Diego State with Michael. Angie, come tell us something.
Sweetwater High School the fall semester of '98. We had about 3 classes together that year. It was our junior year, and we became closer as we were both in ASB. Along with Mike came his brother Steve. We were all in ASB together and got into a lot of shenanigans that year. Mike and Steve insisted that I looked like the singer Maya, and that became my nickname from then on. After hanging out with Mike a few times, he had mentioned to me that we had met before, and I asked him, "We have? When was that?" He said, "You don't remember meeting me in middle school?" I replied, "We did? Did you go to National Middle?" And he said, "Yeah, that's where I first met you. We were at a mutual friend's party." He mentioned the person's name, and I immediately remembered being at that party. However, I did not remember meeting Mike. I then asked, "Well, did we have a conversation?" He then stopped me and said, "It's okay. You probably don't remember me because I was chubby back then." I didn't know how to respond to that, but all I could think of was, I like this guy. We're going to be friends. And sure enough, he became my bestie. Our junior year was filled with so many memories, especially being in ASB. It had to be one of the funnest times of my life. I remember Mike running for ASB president and being part of his I Like Mike campaign team. We had a lot in common as we both came from big families. He of 6 siblings, me of 7 siblings. Each of our siblings being in the same grade and everyone knowing each other. It was an instant family connection and an instant friendship. Mike and I considered ourselves both squares in high school. We never partied or went to any high school parties. I mean, it's not like we were ever invited, but we had parties of our own, which included mostly Steve, him, and I, and our fellow ASB peeps at the Graham's house, hanging out on the weekends, watching movies all night long, and just some other shenanigans that I will not speak of, as I promised Steve that I wouldn't. I went back to look at my high school yearbook just to read what Mike had written to me, and part of what he said was, "Dear Maya, wow, we're going to graduate. I want to wish you the best of luck in whatever choices you make. Just don't make the wrong ones. I hope you always have someone to talk to about any problems you have with your family, and etc. It's been fun knowing you, and I hope you always stay cheerful because you brighten up everyone around you. See you at San Diego State, and maybe you can help me be on task. And if you need help in math, I'm your man. But as far as everything else, you're on your own. I wish you success, but I know we'll come to you as long as you stay sparky. Take care, your hero, Michael David Graham." I remember us being so excited to begin our college journey. Throughout our college years, we experienced becoming adults, learning how to balance out work life, school life, family life, friendships, and hardships. I remember telling Mike that I had never been on a plane before, and he wanted to accompany me on my first experience on a plane ride. And we took a small trip to San Francisco. For my 22nd birthday, we went to Vegas with our friends and just enjoyed life. As a designated best friend, it was my obligation to give him the hardest time when it came to his romantic relationships. Yes, I was that friend who never thought anyone was good enough for him. And every time he introduced me or told me about someone he was dating, I immediately would tell him, "Next. What are you doing with her? You're too good for her. Get rid of her." It wasn't until after we both obtained our master's degrees that we both knew that we wanted to really settle down. We were both hoping to find the one. And I just remember when Mike told me how he met this girl who I actually knew from high school. Our senior year, this girl happened to be a freshman, and she so happened to be my little league crew buddy, where I was required to show her around campus and letting her know what the high school life was like. I had never seen Mike so excited about any girl. This girl wasn't like any of the others. She was intelligent, she was sassy, she was witty, she was beautiful. She was at his level, and I immediately approved. And lo and behold, she became his wife, and now one of my very close friends. I remember when Mike asked me to be his groomswoman for their wedding, and I was so honored to stand there and witness my best friend making one of the best decisions of his life. In return, I also asked Mike to be part of my wedding, and I asked that he read Corinthians 13, which he gladly accepted. Corinthians 13 is a chapter in the Bible that talks about faith, hope, and love. It is also known as the love chapter. I couldn't think of a better person to read this passage other than Mike. He was well-spoken, and that is exactly the kind of person I always thought of him to be. Unfortunately, the class of 2000 from Sweetwater High School did not have a 10-year reunion. Therefore, Mike and I, along with our friend, came together and attempted to begin planning our 20th year reunion. However, COVID happened. From looking around at this room, though, it looks like we got a part of that reunion. Not exactly the way we planned, but just seeing everyone in the room today feels good knowing how much Mike was loved and how special he is. What? The last interaction I had with Mike was actually at one of his favorite places, Costco. It was a month before he passed, and we were both at our lunch break from work, and all I heard was, "Maya!" I turned around and there was Mike with his big cheesy smile. I asked him, "Hey friend, what are you doing here? What are you getting?"
He said, oh, just one thing. I was like, Mike, you came to Costco for just one thing? He was like, yeah, why not? It gives me a reason to be out of the house, walk around. He talked about Liam being back in baseball and Emmy being in school. He was such a proud father. He then asked, when are we having our next double date? I said, yeah, let's plan it. We hugged and said goodbye. And although our last interaction was a positive one, if I had known what I know now, I definitely would have held on a little longer. It's still hard to read now because I want him here, and it still doesn't seem real, but every time I talk to him, I feel his presence, and although I know his life was way too short, I keep telling myself that God needed you to be his guardian angel, and he chose you. I can only close this out by reminding everyone what a positive role model Mike was. He was a loving son, a fun brother, a devoted husband, a proud and caring father, and a loyal friend. From high school days to college days, careers, relationships, trips, marriages, kids, family, we went through it all together. Mike, all I can do now is thank God for allowing our paths to cross and having the honor of being your bestie. Our 26 years of friendship will live on forever in my heart. I'm so grateful for having you in my life. I'll miss your big cheesy smile. And even when things were bad, you turn them into something good. I'll miss your bubbly personality, our double dates, small talks, and endless conversations. Don't forget to have a drink with my brother Frankie and my cousin Hector. They'll take care of you. Until we meet again, my friend, I love you. Love, Angie, a.k.a. Maya.
Thank you, Angie. I'll read another one here. Going to the walking gate, seeing Emilia on Mike's shoulders. Just gonna let you put that image together. Emilia on Mike's shoulders as he was climbing down the slope so they could rescue all the recess toys that got lost over the fence. He was squatting down on the incline so Emilia, not leaving his shoulders, could pick the balls up and throw them over the face. They both had huge smiles on their face as they tried to keep their balance, returning the balls over the fence. That's Stephanie Lynn, Miss Lynn, Emilia's TK teacher. Where's Miss Lynn at? Miss Lynn, thank you for sharing that one. That's a really cool image, being on her shoulders, and I think Abby and Liam will be on those shoulders the rest of their life, and there were some good shoulders to have started with. How many have no idea who I am? Right? When they asked me to do this, I was kind of taken aback. I was like, I'll help with refreshments. I'm really good at flaming hot Cheetos if you want some of those. Well, people said, you were kind of like Mike's work dad. I thought about that for a minute, but that would be giving me a whole lot of credit. At any given time, I was 30 in a room full of 30 kids, and I would say Michael Graham was, on most days, a little bit more mature than me. Mike actually had safety and, liability in mind, except for the time we had the bungee bowl. I remember that one. Anyways, I would like to recognize Mr. Graham. Mr. Graham, would you stand up? This is Mike's real dad right here, Walt Graham. I think truly Mike Graham's work dad was a man who just got put in the Hall of Fame, by the way, San Diego's Hall of Fame for best coaches. Ralph Mora, where are you at? I saw you come in here today. Ralph Mora? That's not, you got an imposter, Ralph Mora. Identity theft. Where is he? Oh, I get it. Do you want to stand for a second, Mr. Mora? Let people know who is one of the greatest principals ever at Sweetwater High School. And the amount of times that Michael Graham and I had to sit in front of Mr. Moore and explain why we needed a poster 70 feet on top of the gym that said, "Got balls" in milk font. You gotta understand, there was a got and then a disco between the balls. It totally made sense if you were promoting a 70s dance. But Mr. Moore, thank you for all your love and patience. I think you were the work dad of Michael Graham. And Mr. Moore quotes, "One of the best people that I will never, ever forget. God bless you, Michael, and your family. With love, Ralph Moore." And I've got one good one. I'm just going to save that one for last. At this moment, we're going to have a guy come up, Joseph Judge, who, a lot like me, started his career over here in National City, wound up at Eastlake for a minute, and then came to find out one day Michael Graham came up to him and said, "Hey, didn't we go to 2nd or 3rd grade together?" Because Michael has a good name for faces and memories and whatnot. Turns out they did. They both ended up working at Collins, which, how many remember Roar? Which then became Goodrich, which then became, oh, sorry about that, dang it. All right, well, here is a good speaker. if I've ever seen one. Joseph Judge.
I had to cut him off because he was stealing my speech. Okay. In the fall of 2011, I got a job at a company called Goodrich Aerospace. It used to be Roar, down on the Bayfront in Chula Vista. I was doing desktop support, like standard IT guy type gig. Got introduced to the team, and Mike was one of them. He remembered me. I didn't really remember him. He was a great younger. I was in class with his older brother. But to Mike, we were already old friends. Mike stood out among his peers. He was more professional, he was better dressed, and he took his job way more seriously than the rest of the team. Mike had a career. Most of the team just had a job. Mike would always say, dress for the job you want, not the job you have. Who put that picture of Mike right there? That's not helpful. Whose idea was that? Okay. Which I took to heart. I started out on the low end of business casual and moved up to nice slacks and nice shoes. One day I complained to Mike that the extra bit of laces that I was tucking into my shoes kept working its way out through the course of the day. Is there a little spot between the tongue and the side of the shoe? You should tuck it in there. It wasn't the advice so much, but the way he presented it. Passing on knowledge while softening the blow that you should know how to do this by now. He was a master at that. After we posted the flyers for this celebration at work, I had several people stop by my office to share fond memories of Mike throughout his 15 years there. Since we moved on to different teams, I wasn't familiar with his daily impact at work. He saved our bacon so many times. Not sure who I'll go to now, he was the helpful one. Sounds to me like he kept doing it in that special way that only Mike could. We had many lunchtime adventures together at taco shops far and wide. Mike shared my penchant for getting the most for his money and for good Southern California Mexican food. Mike liked his burritos like his women, saucy. He figured out that if you ordered that burrito, but subbed the chicken for carne asada, you could get a California with sour cream and guac for $1.50 less. Mike liked good beer too, so we had to hang out after work. Our acquaintance grew into friendship, and our friendship into brotherhood. Mike was always a little extra. He always went a little further, did it a little fancy. You know, sometimes you want just a little more than a burrito. Well, Mike studied the menu before his turn to order. We sat down and we asked him, what was the extra thing you got? He could only smirk. The lady came out from the counter giggling. Here's your burrito, and here is your burger. One time, 8 of us, we were out for a nice dinner before a show, and we all ordered cocktails. Mike caught the waitress as she was walking away. I don't know what he said to her, I wasn't really paying attention. She came back with her cocktails, we all got served, and she goes, and who ordered the frosé? Oh, that's mine too, Mike said. That little extra something was something we could learn from Mike. I know I tried. If Mike were here, he would be disappointed if I didn't say this. This is among the highest order of bullshit. We should not be here. I continue to search for a silver lining in all this, but it escapes me. I guess the closest I'll find is this gathering of parents and children, aunts and uncles, brothers and sisters, teammates and drinking buddies, confidants and advisors, all people who were touched by my friend Mike.
I've got a lot of stories we could tell about Joseph Judge, but this is Michael's day. How many have ever heard Michael referred to as Sparky? Okay, buckle up. This one came from David Valencia. First, I got a preface for this. How many of you, before you judge, there we go, that's good. How many of you ever took a a drink in high school even though you weren't 21? Ever. Wow. I call that fake news. Don't believe it at all. I'll tell you one anecdote. This is my fishbowl right here. It was about 1:30 a.m. after our first luau in 2000, and we had this new thing going around on campus, this new substance. We didn't really know what it was yet, but these people would come out to your campus and give it away for free, unlimited. They had this cool little vehicle, and we had no idea what the recommended daily allowance was of this stuff, but it was called Red Bull. And one seemed good, why not two, right? And at about 1:30, a lot of the ASB kids would end up getting home around 3 o'clock. Sometimes we'd go over to Emma's Pancake House or whatever, or IHOP, wherever they would let us know, it was Denny's. And at about 1:30, I noticed Michael was, what can we do? He's always very proactive. What else can we do? We put away all the things, got the inflatables down, and he was literally shaking. And I'd worked in the court systems, and I knew something was going on, and it wasn't alcohol. I said, Michael, what is wrong with you? He was sweating. Side quest story here. Where is Walter Graham right now? There's Walter Graham. Where is Stephen Graham? Stephen, could you stand up and show him this glorious shirt you had made up? Because this is a very creative guy. You can't see it from there, but this is Steve on the right as Winnie the Pooh and Tigger the Tiger on the left. What year did you buy those outfits, Steve?
Probably 2005, 6.
2000, about 2005, 6. I remember when they first started wearing those, and so I can tell you, I'm an expert on what Michael's sweat smells like, because they never washed those. They didn't wear them just for Halloween. They wore them in April, May, sometimes late July. You could smell Winnie the Pooh and Tigger the Tiger coming, and Tigger too. So, if you can imagine, I know Michael's sweat, right? So I asked Michael, what have you taken? What are you doing? He's like, I had some of those Red Bulls. And I'm like, some? How many is some? He's like, I had 7. I didn't have time to call 911 because we had stuff to break down. We had pancake breakfast to do at 3 a.m., but 7, that boy. And you know what's strange in reflection is, besides his sweat, you really couldn't tell a whole lot of difference between Michael on 7 Red Bulls and just Michael on a day-to-day basis. The guy had a lot of energy. Getting to the point right here. Becky, where are you at? Becky, another one of Michael's older sisters. Where's Lester? We read one of your, where's Lester at? There's Lester. I hope to maybe get around to one more of your memories. It's a good guy. We don't want to lose Lester, like that time we did in New York City. And there's Walter right down here again. He wasn't lost. We didn't have telephones. He decided to go to Queens instead of Brooklyn, but that's okay. So this story is finally coming together. This fishbowl, how many still need to do a fishbowl, by the way? This is me guilty. I need that fishbowl before you eat any of the salt and pepper chicken wings from Royal Mandarin, sir. I'm watching you, okay? This one comes from David Valencia. I saw his eyes immediately. He's a little rascal. Where's David Valencia? There he is, David Lindsay. He's got a beautiful family now of his own. And I quote, one more side quest. How many of you have ever had to ask for a hall pass as an adult male, alpha male, to get out of the house? We call him nobody? Just like drinking, none of you have to ask permission to leave? Do a guy thing? Wow. Oh, does it? Ouch. Yeah, I need these youngsters keeping me updates on what things mean. Sigma? Skibbity? No. Okay, this is from David Valencia. Unfortunately, pause for reflection there, I remember taking the restrictor off the tequila bottle. That subsequently led to Mike running off into the night here in National City. That's where it started. It ended about 200 yards away. Michael decided he could run even faster on tequila if he took all of his clothes off. Now, I know that's not the Michael you know, but that is a potential Michael in the multiverse. From there, it got more interesting as he ran up and down Highland Avenue with no clothes under the influence of tequila. And I say this because in high school, I can't count many people who never drank during high school. They were cool enough to not do it around me or have it on their breath, but Michael never drank in high school that I know of. That's 100% correct. That's not fake news. That guy was straight edge before there was straight edge. He didn't drink. He was always, this guy, despite his influence, Michael was stone cold sober. So for Michael's first experience to be with tequila, naked, running on Highland, how many think you know where this is going to end up? He called me the next day. He was soon pursued by National City's finest because they had heard word of someone running up and down Highland naked under some type of thing, maybe Red Bull, maybe fentanyl, we didn't know in those days. He saw the police and he tried to jump an 8-foot chain link fence. The police did less than lethal measures on him and shot him how many times? 2 and multiple voltage charges. The police said that when he was on the ground, his body started to smoke and mist came off of it. And I was like, Michael, do you need to make bail? Do you need some money? Do we need to get you a lawyer? He's like, oh, no. And how many have ever had any interaction with our finest? National City really does a good job. The police love them to death. As soon as they find out you're a homeowner, oh, you're golden. You're golden. All right, you're not a lowrider. Free ride. Anyways, they told Michael he could go home because they had overcharged the tasers and they had never seen that much voltage put into a human being before. And they might use it as a test sample that a 140-pound male could survive that amount. So that's why some people today still call him Sparky. Thank you, David Valencia, for taking off that tequila lid. Otherwise, we'd never had a story of Sparky. Well, I'm going to call up now Michael's family. Alyssa, Liam, Emmy. We've had a good time remembering Michael today. We've had some laughs, so we'll continue to remember Michael. But there's something I'd like to impress on you. There's some things back there with a SKU code that we need to give our attention to later on. We leave this building tonight and go back to our families and our homes, and we say things like, if there's anything I can do, if there's anything I can do, there is something you can do. And we'll talk about that here in just a second. Alyssa?
The whole time. It's okay, I told my mom she misspelled my name. I want you guys to take a look at all the people that are here. Have you seen all the people? Did you thank them for coming here? They're all here for your dad. Do you understand? And for us. So I wanna take a moment and just, hi, my name's Alyssa Graham. Thank you for gathering here this evening to remember and celebrate my husband, Mike. To be surrounded by family and friends and to hear the stories and share the memories about the joy and the light that he brought to us, it's been bittersweet for me today. But I know that tomorrow it'll be a beautiful memory for our family. So I thank you. To know Mike was to love Mike, and I think that's why you're all here. But to be loved by Mike, that was something special. It was magic, and he would get a kick out of me calling him Magic Mike because of the movie that came out, and his dance moves. And if you saw those in person, you would laugh. If you've seen them online, I saw them online. He had a mini reunion, and he did some of these dance moves, and I was like, oh, they made you laugh, they made you smile, and luckily, they will continue and carry on in our son. Emilia took after me. But it does feel surreal to be here today, but it also feels like a kind of reunion with former teachers, administrators, with former classmates. Some of you, I haven't had the chance to meet you, but I know you're here because you knew my husband, and I appreciate that, and I thank you. Friends and family, and I just feel so fortunate that Sweetwater allowed us to meet here today because, when it was free, thank you. But also because this is where our story began. Like Angie Maya said, she was my lead crew leader, helped a little freshman out, and I was a little freshman. I came here, and Mike was a senior. He was the ASB president for the class of 2000. I'm biased, he was the best president. I know there's some former presidents here, but he was the best and he was my favorite. But when I first laid eyes on him, I was like, wow, that smile, you know? It was infectious and just so charismatic, you know? So, and I didn't pay attention, I was just a little freshman, so I was like, no shot. So, it's fine, just look at him, eye candy, you know? Not bad for 1 year. But years later, who would have thought that while I was a sophomore in college, I would meet him at one of Sioux High's homecoming games. And I have to give a shout out to my brother-in-law, Walter, who invited me and then introduced me, probably because I forced him to. I was like, hey, I thought your brother was cute, introduce me. And I wish I could say that we worked out then, because Mike was amazing even then as a young guy. But at that time, I was emotionally immature and could not be in a serious relationship, and I own that. I messed up. And now I'm not good with dates or remembering things. That was his job, that was his forte. But I do remember that we reconnected at the end of 2009 at David Valencia's housewarming party. And then we never left each other's side since. You see, I knew I had messed up and I wasn't gonna make the same mistake twice and risk losing him again, whatever the cost, whatever friends I lost, it wasn't gonna happen, not this time. I knew that Mike was the one for me, my lobster if you watch Friends, my partner, and that he would make a great husband and father. And I was right, as I usually am. He was the best, and he made me better. I mean, when Mike asked for my hand, my dad very lovingly told him, good luck, she's your problem now. He did, true story. And Mike taught me patience a little more, because I had none before. How to communicate better, I struggled with that. And that crying wasn't a sign of weakness. It was just proof that I was human. It was actually a sign of strength, because I was always the strong one everywhere I went. Mike never failed to make me feel loved. He completed me and balanced me out. Mike was techie, I am not. He was great at spending, I'm better at saving. Mike was a social butterfly. Any room he came into, he lit up. I'm okay just being a fly on the wall. I was the disciplinarian at home, and he was the one that let the kids get away with things, and he would say, dads are fun, moms are mean. We hardly fought, but if we did, we never went to bed angry. We laughed a lot, and we made memories. And we had fun making those memories. We enjoyed them. But we were not so great at posting on social media. That wasn't our thing. The craziest thing is that ever came out of Mike's mouth was that he didn't think he would marry and have children. However, after talking to his brother Steve and then meeting me, he changed his mind. I know for so many people here today that's crazy to hear, because you know his kids were his world. These guys right here. He loved being a husband, but to see him as a father, that took my breath away. The way he would look at his kids, speak to them, play Legos or video games with them, that was his reason for being. He loved helping coach baseball and watching William play. Mike would watch the ring camera waiting for the kids to return from karate, and he would just jump off the couch. Even if we were talking mid-sentence, jump off the couch, help my mom bring the kids into the house. He was just so happy to have them back home with us. The kids just gave him this superhero energy. No matter how tired he was always present for us, his wife and his kids. In the end, Mike was the hero that the kids always saw him as. I know how hard he fought to stay with us that day. Even in his last moments here with us, he was doing good. His final heroic act was as an old organ donor, where one of his organs saved a 40-something-year-old woman in Southern California. Mike didn't need a cape to save a life, like one of his comic books. So in our hearts and in our children, he lives on, and as sad and angry, confused, lost as I've been feeling these past weeks, I catch myself smiling and laughing and finding comfort in the village of family and friends that Mike and I had built together. You see, the weekend before he passed, there was this heat wave, and we were sequestered in the house with the AC, and the kids were playing, and the dogs were chilling in the AC, and I just had this moment where I was just happy. And he turned to me and he's like, hey, what are you thinking? And I was like, we're so lucky, life is so good. And he flashed me one of his $1 million smiles, even though he didn't go to the dentist as frequently as I wanted him to. He still had a good smile. And he said, well, we work hard and we're just fortunate to be surrounded by good people. The kids are happy and healthy. We have our LDV family, not a gang, it's the school they go to. And we are lucky to have joined our CBN baseball family. Okay, also not a gang, it's the baseball league that he plays in. Because we're from National City, a lot of people think, oh, you're in a gang? I know they thought that when I was at USD. But he also just ended with, well, we're so lucky to have such a great village. And with that said, I know Mike is with us and will always be with us in some way. Right now, he's probably super surprised and impressed that we gathered here at the Sioux High gym. He'd be like, wow, all this for me? And I'd be like, yeah, babe, I did it for you. You're welcome. He would also be immensely grateful to our village people, and I'm not talking about the YMCA. But our families, our friends, our neighbors, our school fam, our baseball fam. Thank you to everybody who called, texted, sent notes, letters, sent activities for the kids, who fed us. First off, I'm not the best cook. I mean, I can read directions, but some of you out there, thank you for the food. You're great cooks. I mean, I got better though, obviously. He gained weight, so. But from the bottom of my heart, I thank you because you've all made a very difficult time bearable. And with Mike's loss, we have all gained a lesson that life is too short. Forgive, forget, and connect with your loved ones because you never know when it's the last. I know I didn't know. And so for me, I know Judge, you mentioned it's hard to make sense of this, to find the silver lining. But to just have you guys all here for us, for him, that's the beauty in what remains after our loss. So thank you. William, aka Liam for short, that's his family name, would like to say a few words. Got it? Oh, here you go.
Does this work? Feels good. Okay. My dad was the greatest dad I could ever ask for because he would always keep some work for time to spend with us. My dad would play Legos and video games with me and also coach me with baseball. My dad will always be in my heart. It wasn't fair. Thank you for coming.
And show me the teachers. Your DA, say hi. There you go. It's concentrated. All right. Thank you, everyone. We have a lot of educators here, and I'm very fortunate. I've been teaching 16, going on 17 years. I think I lost count. And I've got to work with some amazing kids. And one of my students, as her gift to our family, put together a video montage. So kids can do some amazing things. I know I couldn't do this, so my student did this.
If I knew it would be the last time, I would have broke my heart in two, trying to save a part of you. Don't wanna feel another touch, don't wanna start another fire.
Yeah. Okay, now take it out. So 10 years ago, give or take, probably changed. You put a ring on my finger. So this it's circular. So it's kind of like my version of an engagement ring. Because your ring was not good enough. You put in the time. So, no, it's okay. We gotta get it fitted. We're gonna go take you to get it fitted, but I got it engraved. So it says, Graham, our anniversary. Yes.
I'm gonna live forever.
So I forgot to give you a gift. I wrapped it up. Here you go. Yeah, I know. You should be excited. Well, the other one I didn't wrap for you, so I decided to wrap this one. What? What?
The world gets turned into a lonely place.
I know.
The teardrops on your face. I might
Crazy
be
baby.
beside you, but I won't be far. I'll be looking over you like northern stars. When nights your mind is spiraling like desert winds. The way you wanna go is not the way you've been. Darling, don't be scared of what's around the bend. And when you feel alone, I hope you never forget. I'm gonna live forever in you. Long as the sky and ocean tries to break, I'll always love you.
Welcome to the Papa and Emily show. Hi. We're both monkeys. And we're also robots.
Steve was always my sound guy back in the day, right? Once more, thank you to Diara, who is from National City Middle. She's your yearbook editor. And Alyssa brought back the yearbook single-handedly to National City last year. And she may not believe it or not, but I practiced saying Alyssa for at least 2 weeks. The Y just kind of did something. Where's Miss Peralt? I don't know if you heard it from back there, but the minute I mispronounced it, Steve said, yep, should have got Mrs. Peralt to do this thing. So, yeah. Some special thanks here today. I want to start out with, first of all, someone who's, I don't know, an Eskimo brother? Can we say her blood brother? Or what, Joe Judge, is that appropriate? Jay Fabuna, where are you at, Jay? This guy right here is the current ASB director at Sweetwater High School. He didn't just give us the keys and turn on the lights and say go at it. He made sure to be personally here. Meg Martinez says you have a heart of Sweetwater gold, and that means a lot. Meg Martinez Garcia, all right. Sal and Augustine, are you here by any chance still? Sal was just a gardener when I was here last. Sal and Augustine set all this up tonight and made this possible for us. We really appreciate that. He is the, I don't know what they call it, head custodian here now. Jill Davis from Glen Abbey, where are you at, Jill Davis? Met with the family repeatedly to make sure that this was a Graham-specific, bespoke ceremony, and you did a great job. Osiris Graham. I remember when you were just like a decal on the side of a tennis shoe your dad was infatuated with, but this is one of the famous Grahams that is now part of the Stephen Graham line. He did all the sound and tech tonight, Osiris Graham. You did an incredible job tonight, and I think everyone really enjoyed that. If you didn't catch that in the back, is when it was a birthday present, they opened up and it was the announcement that they were going to have a baby. So Alyssa is known for her prankster tricks on Mike. Lastly, just throw this one out here right now. Also want to thank everyone in this room because Michael had a little bit of heartache at the end of 2000. I don't know if you remember hoarding toilet paper or going to the grocery stores and not finding anything in it, but those were the types of things that broke Mike's heart. Mike loved this school so much, and he loved so many of the people in it. People knew Mike all over this town in 2000. He was severely upset that they were not able to have a reunion. And in many ways, I hope he's looking down and seeing this. I've seen some pretty lame reunions lately. This is an incredible reunion you've all put together for Michael Graham, so I think you can give yourselves a round of applause for that, for being here tonight. And lastly, before I get to the advertisement here, not a priest, not a philosopher, or whatever they call those, and I wouldn't throw a colloquialism or a cliche out at you if I didn't truly believe it. But there's something that goes back from the mid-1700s, before we had electricity, and they say that the light that burns twice as bright burns twice as fast. And I don't say that. That's a shallow comfort. But Michael's light burned bright. About as bright as any kids I ever knew. And we're here tonight to celebrate Michael's bright light, his bright life, the bright family he leaves behind with us. And we have an obligation to get this mic tuned a little bit better. We have an obligation to Michael Graham's family. He'd have done it for years. If you know how to turn on your phone, Mr. Moore, I know you're one of the old school, and all you older people over 60, but here's what you're going to do before you get into the salt and pepper wings. I want you to turn on your camera, and I want you to go back there and find that skew thing, and just let your camera hover over it for a minute. And it's going to say, open in Chrome, or open in Safari. If you're Mr. Moore and you're still subscribing to Safari, or, Hotmail, or whatever it is. I want you to let your phone hover over that skew long enough so you can make a donation and send Emmy and Liam to college. We can help do that. How many of you think you could do that for the family? I'm counting on you to do that tonight. It's been a wonderful time to be back at Sweetwater High, despite the circumstances. Thank you for coming tonight. Thank you for everyone who made a part of this, took a part out of your Saturday to be here. We've got some incredible things to eat back there. And once again, get that phone out and hover over that skew code to make sure we get those two kids a good start to a college. From Michael Graham's family, from Alma, Walt, Becky, Maria, Steve, Lester, Walter. Walter is recording messages back out at the door there before you go, so if you did get a chance to write it down. We thank you very much from the bottom of the Graham heart for coming here tonight, sharing your memories about Michael. And we're still going to share some stories here afterwards over at the banquet table back there. Please hang around for a while for that. Say hi, take some pictures, and we're going to get those to the family. Thank you for coming tonight to Michael Graham's celebration of life.